The December wind cut through Madison Avenue like a blade, sending designer shopping bags tumbling across sidewalks where they had no business being. Christmas lights blinked from every storefront window, each display more excessive than the last. Diamonds, furs, watches that cost more than most people earned in a year. But between the luxury boutiques and the marble-fronted banks, in the narrow alley beside Romano's fine jewelry, lived a girl the glittering world had forgotten. Her name was Elena Cross, though she hadn't heard anyone say it in so long that sometimes she wondered if she'd imagined having a name at all. 17 years old, small for her age, with dark hair she kept short with dollar store scissors, and eyes that had seen too much too soon. She'd been living on the streets for 8 months now, ever since her foster father's hands had wandered one time too many, and she'd run with nothing but the clothes on her back and her mother's silver locket around her neck. The alley was her territory. She'd fought for it, literally, against a grown man twice her size who'd claimed the spot first. Elena had learned early that size didn't matter as much as determination. She'd broken his nose with a brick, and he'd moved on to easier hunting grounds. Now the space behind the dumpster, sheltered from the worst of the wind by Romano's back wall, was hers. She had a sleeping bag she'd pulled from a donation bin, 3 changes of clothes she rotated through the laundromat when she had quarters, and a backpack containing everything she owned in the world. A toothbrush, soap, the paperback copy of Jane Eyre she'd stolen from a library donation box, her mother's locket, and today, 1 crumpled dollar bill. Elena counted it again, smoothing the wrinkles against her thigh. $1. She'd spent the morning panhandling outside the coffee shop 2 blocks over, holding her cardboard sign with the words, "Hungry. Anything helps," written in careful letters. Most people had walked past without seeing her. The ones who did see her looked away quickly, as if poverty might be contagious. But an elderly woman with kind eyes and arthritic hands had pressed the dollar into Elena's palm that morning. "God bless you, sweetheart," she'd whispered. Elena had wanted to cry. She hadn't cried since the night she'd run away, and she wasn't about to start now. $1 could buy a lot of things. A pack of crackers from the corner store, 3 bananas, a small coffee that would warm her hands for an hour. She was trying to decide which option made the most sense when she heard the baby crying. The sound cut through the street noise like a knife through silk. High-pitched, desperate, the kind of crying that meant something was seriously wrong. Elena's head snapped up from where she sat against the alley wall. Across the street, outside the entrance to Cartier, a man stood holding an infant who couldn't have been more than a few months old. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with the kind of build that suggested hours in an expensive gym. His coat was black cashmere, probably cost more than Elena would see in a lifetime of panhandling. Dark hair, darker eyes, and a face carved from granite that might have been handsome if it weren't twisted with barely controlled panic. The baby in his arms was screaming. Not fussing, not crying. Screaming with the kind of desperation that made Elena's chest tighten. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. The man was trying everything. Rocking the baby, patting its back, speaking in low, urgent tones that Elena couldn't hear over the traffic and the infant's wails. But nothing was working. The baby's face was bright red, tiny fists flailing in the air. Around them, the Christmas shoppers flowed like a river around a stone. Nobody stopped. Nobody offered help. They just adjusted their shopping bags and kept walking, as if a man desperately trying to soothe a screaming infant on one of the busiest shopping days of the year was perfectly normal. But Elena had spent 8 months learning to read people. It was a survival skill. You had to know who might give you money, who might hurt you, who was safe and who was dangerous. And this man, for all his expensive clothes and obvious wealth, was drowning. She watched him pull out his phone with one hand, while trying to support the baby with the other. His fingers were shaking. The call didn't seem to connect. He tried again. Nothing. The baby's screams were getting worse, if that was even possible. Elena made a decision that would change both their lives forever. She stood up, brushing dirt from her jeans that probably cost $10 at the Salvation Army, and crossed the street. The man didn't notice her at first. He was too focused on the baby, too lost in whatever crisis was unfolding in his arms. "Excuse me," Elena said quietly. He didn't hear her over the screaming. She tried again, louder this time. "Excuse me, sir." His head snapped toward her, and Elena found herself looking into eyes so dark they were almost black. Eyes that had seen violence. Eyes that promised consequences. Eyes that, right now, were filled with something she recognized all too well. Pure, helpless fear. What? His voice was sharp, defensive. Elena held up her hands in a gesture of peace. She'd learned that movement, too. How to make yourself look harmless. Your baby. When did she last eat? He blinked, thrown by the question. I don't. He looked down at the screaming infant, as if she might provide answers. An hour ago? Maybe 2? I don't know. Her mother usually... He stopped, jaw clenching. Her mother isn't here. She's hungry, Elena said with certainty. Babies cry like that when they're hungry, different than when they're tired or wet or want attention. That's a hungry cry. How do you... He stopped himself. I gave her a bottle 2 hours ago. She's growing. Babies eat more than you think, especially when they're having a growth spurt. Elena stepped closer, and she saw him tense. She stopped immediately, maintaining distance. Is there somewhere you can feed her? Somewhere warm? The man's Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed. I was supposed to meet someone. At Romano's. He gestured to the jewelry store behind him. To pick up, it doesn't matter. She started crying in the car, the driver circling the block. I thought I could just... He stopped again, clearly realizing how ridiculous he sounded. A grown man, clearly wealthy and powerful, completely undone by an infant's basic needs. You need formula, Elena said. Or breast milk if you have it, and somewhere quiet. The noise is making it worse. She's overstimulated. His eyes narrowed. You seem to know a lot about babies. I babysat a lot. Before. Elena didn't elaborate on before. Before the foster homes. Before the streets. Before everything fell apart. There's a drugstore 2 blocks that way. They sell formula and bottles, if you don't have any. I have bottles in the car. But the formula... He looked down at the screaming baby, and something in his expression cracked. I don't know what kind she needs. There were too many options. I just grabbed something. She wouldn't take it. Elena understood immediately. Wrong formula. Either the baby was sensitive to certain ingredients, or she was used to a specific brand. Babies were particular about these things in ways that could seem unreasonable to adults who didn't understand their limited world. What kind did her mother use? I don't... His frustration was palpable. I don't know. Okay. Elena's mind raced through options. Most babies do okay with Similac or Enfamil. If she has a sensitive stomach, you want the Gently's kind. If she's colicky, there's special formula for that. 2. He stared at her for a long moment. Around them, the Christmas shoppers kept flowing past. The baby kept screaming. And somewhere in that moment, Elena saw his decision form. Come with me, he said. Not a request, a command. What? To the drugstore. Show me which formula. I'll pay you. He was already moving toward the curb, the baby still wailing in his arms. Elena's survival instincts screamed at her to run. Strange man. Offering money. Wanting her to go somewhere with him. Every alarm bell she'd developed living on the streets was ringing so loud it drowned out the traffic noise. But the baby. God, the baby. I don't want your money, Elena heard herself say. He stopped, turned back to her. Everyone wants money. I want your baby to stop crying. The words came out harder than she intended. She's in pain. Hunger hurts when you're that small. So yeah, I'll help you, but you don't have to pay me. Something shifted in his expression. Something Elena couldn't quite read. Before he could respond, a black Mercedes pulled up to the curb. The back door opened, and the man climbed in, still holding the screaming infant. He looked back at Elena, who stood frozen on the sidewalk. Get in, he said. Please. It was the please that did it. A man like this expensive coat, Mercedes with a driver, the kind of presence that made people step aside without thinking he didn't say please to homeless girls on street corners. Unless he was truly desperate. Elena climbed into the back seat. The door closed behind her with the kind of solid thunk that spoke of German engineering and more money than she could comprehend. The interior smelled like leather and something expensive she couldn't name. The baby's screams seemed even louder in the enclosed space. Street Vincent's Pharmacy, the man told the driver. Fast. The car pulled smoothly into traffic. Elena's heart was pounding, every survival instinct still screaming that she'd made a terrible mistake. But she focused on the baby instead. The tiny face red from crying, eyes squeezed shut, mouth open in continuous wails. Can I? Elena held out her arms. The man hesitated. She saw the calculation in his eyes. Trust versus desperation. Desperation won. He handed over the baby, and Elena immediately adjusted her position, upright, against her shoulder, one hand supporting the head, the other patting a gentle rhythm on the tiny back. "Shh, shh, shh, shh," she murmured, her voice soft. "I know, sweetheart. I know you're hungry. We're going to fix that. Just a few more minutes. Shh." The crying didn't stop immediately, but it changed, became less frantic. The baby's tiny body began to relax against Elena's shoulder, responding to the gentle rhythm and soft voice. The man watched this transformation with an expression Elena couldn't quite read. Suspicion? Gratitude? Something darker? "What's your name?" he asked finally. "Elena." "How old are you, Elena?" She considered lying, decided against it. 17. His jaw tightened. "Where are your parents?" "Dead." It was easier to say than the truth, that her mother was dead and her father was unknown, that the system had chewed her up and spit her out, that she'd been on her own longer than she'd been anyone's child. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. You didn't kill them." Elena kept her focus on the baby, whose cries had reduced to soft whimpers. "What's her name?" "Isabella." The word came out rough, like it hurt to say. "Bella. Pretty name." Elena adjusted her hold, shifting Bella to a more comfortable position. "How old is she?" 3 months. Almost 4. "She's beautiful. She looks like her mother." Again, that roughness, that pain. Elena wanted to ask where the mother was, but something in his tone told her that question wouldn't be welcome. Instead, she focused on keeping Bella calm until they reached the pharmacy. The Mercedes pulled up to Street Vincent's 3 minutes later. The man Elena still didn't know his name opened his door and then paused. "Wait here," he said. "I need to come with you. To show you which formula." "Describe it." "I'll find it." Elena shook her head. "There are like 30 different kinds. It'll take forever. Just look. I'll leave the baby with you if that makes you feel better. But I can find what you need in 2 minutes." Another pause. Another calculation. Then he nodded. Elena handed Bella back carefully. The baby immediately started fussing again, sensing the change. 2 minutes, Elena promised. "That's all." She climbed out of the Mercedes and into the pharmacy, acutely aware of how she must look. Dirty jeans, worn jacket, hair that needed washing. The security guard's eyes followed her immediately. But Elena ignored him. She headed straight for the baby aisle, scanning shelves with the efficiency of someone who'd learned to navigate stores quickly before being kicked out. There. Enfamil Gentlis, the purple container. Good for sensitive stomachs, easy to digest. Most babies tolerated it well. She grabbed 2 containers. Backup was always smart and headed for the register. That's when she remembered. $1. That's all she had. Elena looked down at the containers in her hands. Each one cost $18. She had 1 crumpled dollar bill in her pocket. The door chimed. The man walked in, Bella still crying in his arms. His eyes found Elena immediately, then dropped to the formula in her hands. He pulled out his wallet without a word. "I can't afford these," Elena said quietly. "I'm sorry, I should have checked the price first. I wanted to help." He stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled out 3 $20 bills and handed them to the clerk. "These 2, and whatever else the young lady needs." Elena's throat tightened. "I don't need anything else. When's the last time you ate?" The question was blunt, direct. "I'm fine. That's not what I asked." Elena met his eyes. Saw something there that wasn't pity, wasn't charity, just a simple question demanding an honest answer. "Yesterday," she admitted. "Morning. Get food." He nodded toward the aisles. "Anything you want. We'll wait." Elena's pride warred with her hunger. Hunger won. She grabbed protein bars, packages of crackers, peanut butter. Things that would last. Things that were practical. Nothing expensive. Nothing that felt like taking advantage. She added it to the counter. The clerk rang it up. $43 total. The man didn't even blink, just handed over the money like it was nothing. Outside, in the Mercedes, Elena prepared Bella's bottle with hands that had done this hundreds of times in another life, testing the temperature on her wrist, making sure it was warm, but not too hot. The baby latched onto the nipple immediately, her tiny hands coming up to grip the bottle. The silence in the car was broken only by Bella's satisfied sucking sounds. "Thank you," the man said quietly. Elena looked up from the baby in her arms and found him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "You're welcome." She paused. "What's your name? Since you know mine." He hesitated. "Just for a moment. Dante. Dante Russo." The name meant nothing to Elena. She didn't read newspapers, didn't watch the news, didn't move in circles where names like Russo carried weight. But she saw something shift in his expression when she didn't react. Surprise, maybe relief. "Well, Dante," Elena said, focusing back on Bella, "your daughter is going to need proper feeding schedule. Growth spurts hit around 3 months. She might need to eat more often, every 2 to 3 hours during the day. You should write it down. Track when she eats and how much. Makes it easier to spot patterns." He stopped. "I'm learning as I go. Most parents are." Elena watched Bella's eyes start to droop. Full belly, safe arms. The baby was falling asleep. "But you're doing okay. You got help when you needed it. That's more than a lot of people do." Dante Russo, whoever he really was, looked at her with something close to wonder. "Where can I take you?" he asked. "Back to my alley," Elena wanted to say. "Back to the sleeping bag and the backpack and the life you just briefly pulled me out of." But what came out was, "Nowhere. I mean, I don't have anywhere to go." The words hung in the warm car interior. Outside, Christmas shoppers hurried past with bags full of presents for people who had homes to return to. "You live on the street," Dante said. "Not a question. I manage. For 8 months. Elena's head snapped up. "How did you said you babysat before. You know things people who work with children know. But you've been living rough long enough to lose weight. Get that look in your eyes." 8 months felt like the right guess. He was perceptive. Dangerous. Elena's instincts were screaming again. "I should go," she said, starting to hand Bella back. "Wait," Dante's voice stopped her. "I want to hire you." "What?" "As Bella's nanny. Temporary. Until I figure out everything." Elena stared at him. "You don't know me. I could be anyone. You gave a hungry baby formula when you had $1 to your name. You didn't ask for payment. You just wanted to help." Dante leaned forward. "I've spent my whole life reading people. Learning to spot lies. You're not lying. And Bella," he looked at his sleeping daughter, "she trusts you. Babies know." "This is crazy." "Probably." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "But I'm desperate. My sister was helping with Bella. She's in the hospital. Emergency surgery. I don't know when she'll be back. I have people I trust with business, with security, with money. But a 3-month-old baby?" He shook his head. "I'm drowning." Elena looked down at Bella. Peaceful now. Fed and content. She thought about the alley, the sleeping bag, the $1 in her pocket that she'd almost spent on crackers. She thought about this man's obvious wealth and power, and the fact that he was trusting her with the most precious thing in his life based on 15 minutes of interaction. She thought about how badly this could go wrong. 1 week, Elena heard herself say. "Trial basis. You don't like how it's going, I leave. No questions asked. Deal." Dante held out his hand. Elena shifted Bella carefully and shook it. His grip was firm, warm. The handshake of someone who made deals that changed lives. She had no idea how right she was. "Where do you live?" Elena asked as the Mercedes pulled back into traffic. "Midtown. Private building." "Okay." Elena tried to process this. "I'll need to get my things. We'll send someone. I'd rather get them myself." She wasn't ready to tell strangers where she'd been sleeping. Some things you kept private. Dante studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Fine. Where?" Elena gave the driver directions to the alley behind Romano's. When they pulled up, she saw the doorman from the jewelry store giving the Mercedes suspicious looks. "I'll just be a minute," Elena said, handing Bella to Dante with careful instructions about how to support her head. She climbed out and headed into the alley. Her sleeping bag was where she'd left it. Her backpack. Everything she owned in the world. Elena looked at it all and realized she was about to leave the only home she'd known for 8 months to move in with a complete stranger and take care of his baby. She should run. Should grab her things and disappear into the city and never look back. Instead, she packed her backpack, rolled up her sleeping bag, and walked back to the Mercedes. Dante Russo was watching her through the window. Something in his expression made her pause. He looked relieved, like he'd actually thought she might not come back. Elena climbed into the car with everything she owned, looked at the man holding the sleeping baby, and wondered what kind of life she'd just walked into. The Mercedes pulled away from the alley. Behind them, the Christmas lights blinked on Madison Avenue, promising magic and miracles to anyone who believed. Elena wasn't sure she believed in anything anymore. But as Bella stirred in Dante's arms and reached one tiny hand toward Elena, She thought maybe, just maybe, she was willing to try. The penthouse occupied the entire 42nd floor of the Russo Tower, a building Elena had walked past 100 times without ever imagining she'd set foot inside. The lobby alone was intimidating, all marble and brass and security guards who looked like they ate trespassers for breakfast. But Dante walked through like he owned the place. Which, Elena realized as they rode the private elevator, he probably did. The doors opened directly into his apartment. Not a hallway. Not a shared corridor. Just straight into a living space that could have housed 50 people experiencing homelessness with room to spare. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Real hardwood floors, not laminate. Furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. And silence. The kind of heavy, expensive silence that only serious money could buy, insulating you from the noise and chaos of the streets 42 floors below. Elena stood frozen in the elevator entrance, suddenly acutely aware of her dirty jeans and worn jacket. She didn't belong here. This was a mistake. Elena, Dante's voice pulled her back. He was already inside, Bella still asleep in his arms. Come in. It's okay. She forced her feet to move. The elevator doors closed behind her with a soft whisper, cutting off her escape route. The nursery is this way. Dante led her down a hallway lined with abstract art that probably cost more than most people's houses. He pushed open a door, and Elena stepped into a room that looked like every baby's dream. Pale yellow walls. A crib that converted into a toddler bed. Shelves full of books and toys. A changing table stocked with every supply imaginable. A rocking chair by the window. Everything pristine. Everything perfect. Everything unused. Dante laid Bella gently in the crib. She stirred but didn't wake, her tiny mouth working in her sleep like she was still drinking her bottle. My sister set this up, he said quietly, staring down at his daughter. When Bella was born, she thought of everything. But I don't. I haven't spent much time in here. Elena heard what he wasn't saying. This was his sister's domain. His sister understood babies and nurseries and the 1,000 small details that went into caring for an infant. Dante was drowning because he'd been relying on someone else to navigate these waters. Where is your sister now? Elena asked carefully. Street Catherine's Hospital. Emergency appendectomy this morning. She'll be there at least a week, maybe longer. His jaw tightened. She's been helping with Bella since... He stopped. For 3 months. I didn't realize how much I depended on her until she was gone. And Bella's mother? The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Dante's expression went from pained to glacial in an instant. Dead. The word was final. Conversation over. Elena didn't push. She'd learned on the streets that some wounds were too fresh to touch. Okay, she said instead. Let me show you the basics. When she wakes up, she'll need to be changed. The diapers are here. She opened drawers as she spoke, cataloging supplies. Wipes. Cream for diaper rash. You want to change her before feeding if possible. After feeding, she'll need to be burped. That's important. If she doesn't burp, she'll get gas, and that means crying. Dante was watching her with an intensity that made Elena nervous. Like he was memorizing every word. She should eat every 3 to 4 hours during the day, more often if she's going through a growth spurt, which she might be. At night, you can probably stretch it to 4 or 5 hours. She'll let you know when she's hungry. Elena moved to the changing table. You'll need to track wet diapers. At least 6 a day means she's getting enough to eat. Fewer than that, you need to feed her more. How do you know all this? Elena shrugged. I told you. I babysat a lot. My foster mother ran a daycare out of her house. I helped. She didn't mention that helped meant doing most of the actual work while her foster mother collected the checks. Some memories weren't worth revisiting. Dante was quiet for a long moment. Elena, I need to be honest with you about something. Her stomach tightened. Here it comes. The catch. There was always a catch. My life is complicated, he continued. The people I associate with, the business I run. It's not. He paused, choosing words carefully. It's not always legal. Elena's survival instincts screamed. Illegal. Dangerous. Run. But she looked at Bella sleeping peacefully in her crib, and she heard herself say, What kind of illegal? The kind where I have enemies. The kind where security is necessary. The kind where if you work for me, you need to understand that there are risks. You're in the mob. Elena said it flatly. Not a question. Dante's eyebrows rose slightly. That's a very specific conclusion. You have a driver who doesn't speak unless spoken to. You walk into places like you own them. You carry yourself like someone who's used to being obeyed. And you just told me you have enemies and do illegal things. Elena crossed her arms. I'm homeless, not stupid. A ghost of a smile crossed Dante's face. No, you're definitely not stupid. So are you? In the mob? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, my family has been in certain businesses for 3 generations, legitimate and otherwise. I took over operations when my father died 5 years ago. And yes, some of what we do would be considered organized crime by people who don't understand how the city actually works. Elena absorbed this. Okay. Dante looked surprised. That's it? What do you want me to say? I've been living in an alley for 8 months. I've seen worse than organized crime. At least you're honest about it. She turned back to the crib, checking on Bella. As long as you're not hurting kids, I don't care what you do. I would never. The vehemence in his voice made her turn back. Children are off limits. Always. That's a line I don't cross. Elena believed him. Maybe she shouldn't have, but she did. Then we don't have a problem. She paused. But if you're going to have me taking care of Bella, I need to know what kind of security situation we're dealing with. Are there people who might try to hurt her to get to you? Dante's expression darkened. There are always people. That's why this building has the security it does. That's why there are cameras, guards, protocols. He moved to the window, looking out over the city. Bella is the most important thing in my life. Everything I do, every decision I make, is about keeping her safe. Even hiring a homeless girl you met on the street, especially that. He turned back to her. My world is full of people who want something from me, who see opportunity in my daughter, who would use her as leverage or worse. His eyes found Elena's. But you didn't know who I was. You just wanted to help a crying baby. That kind of motivation is rare in my life. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Elena understood what he was really saying. She was an outsider, someone with no connections to his world, no agenda, no reason to betray him except basic human decency. In his life, that made her more trustworthy than anyone on his payroll. Okay, she said again. But I need some things if I'm going to do this properly. Name them. Clothes. I can't take care of a baby in what I'm wearing. Nothing fancy, just clean clothes that fit. A place to sleep that's close to the nursery so I can hear her at night. Access to the kitchen so I can make my own food. She paused. And I need to be able to come and go. I'm not a prisoner here. You'll have your own room, connected to the nursery. There's a bathroom attached. As for clothes, I'll have someone take your measurements and bring things tomorrow. Kitchen access is fine. But his expression grew serious. Coming and going requires discussion. This building is secure. You'll need a key card for the elevator. And if you leave, I need to know where you're going. That sounds like being a prisoner. That sounds like keeping you safe. Dante moved closer. Elena, the moment you walked into this building with me, you became associated with my family. That means you're a potential target. I can't protect you if I don't know where you are. Elena wanted to argue, wanted to insist on her freedom, but she'd been truly free for 8 months, and freedom had meant sleeping in alleys and going hungry. Maybe a little security wasn't the worst trade-off. Fine, but I'm not asking permission every time I need to go to the store. Fair enough. I'll assign you a security detail. A what? Someone to go with you, for safety. That's insane. That's non-negotiable. Dante's tone left no room for argument. You work for me now. You're under my protection. That means security. Elena opened her mouth to protest, but Bella chose that moment to wake up with a soft cry. Dante immediately tensed, but Elena moved to the crib smoothly. Hey, sweet girl, did you have a good nap? She lifted Bella carefully, checking her diaper. Wet. Let's get you changed, and then maybe your daddy can try feeding you this time. I don't, Dante started. You're going to learn. Elena laid Bella on the changing table. Come here, watch. For the next 10 minutes, Elena walked Dante through the process of changing a diaper. He was awkward at first, his large hands uncertain with the tiny snaps and soft skin. But he listened, learned. By the end, he'd successfully changed Bella without incident. See? Not so hard. Elena handed him a fresh bottle she'd prepared. Now feed her. Support her head with your arm. Angle the bottle so there's no air in the nipple. That's it. Dante settled into the rocking chair, Bella cradled against his chest. The baby latched onto the bottle immediately, her dark eyes staring up at her father with absolute trust. Something in Dante's expression cracked. Elena saw it happen in real time, the walls coming down, the hardness softening, the fearsome man dissolving into just a father holding his daughter. "She's so small," he whispered. "She'll get bigger." Elena leaned against the changing table, watching them. "Before you know it, she'll be walking and talking and getting into everything. I don't know how to do this. Be a father. My own father, he was—" Dante stopped. "He wasn't a good man. I don't know how to be different." Elena recognized that fear. She'd felt it herself, wondering if the violence and chaos of her childhood had damaged her too badly to ever be normal. "You're already different," she said quietly. "Your father. Would he have stopped on a street corner because his baby was crying? Would he have asked a homeless girl for help? Would he have admitted he was drowning? No. Then you're already not him." Elena moved to the window, looking out at the city lights beginning to twinkle as evening fell. Being a good parent isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up, trying, learning. "You're doing all of that." Dante was quiet, just rocking gently as Bella drank. When he spoke again, his voice was rough with emotion. "Thank you. For this. For helping. You're paying me. I'm not talking about money." Elena didn't know what to say to that, so she said nothing. They stayed in comfortable silence until Bella finished her bottle and fell asleep again. "Your room is across the hall," Dante said, standing carefully so as not to wake her. "Let me show you." He laid Bella back in her crib and led Elena to a door opposite the nursery. The room beyond was bigger than any place Elena had ever lived. Queen-size bed with white linens, dresser, closet, a window with a view of the city that must have cost millions. "The bathroom is through there." Dante pointed to another door. "Towels are in the cabinet. There should be basic toiletries already stocked. If you need anything else, let me know." Elena set her backpack down on the bed. It looked ridiculous, filthy, and worn against the pristine white comforter. "I should shower," she said. "I probably smell like the street." "You smell fine." But Dante was already moving toward the door. "I'll order dinner. Any preferences?" "I'm not picky. Italian, okay? Anything is fine. Really." He paused at the door. "Elena, I know this is overwhelming. If you need to leave, if this is too much, I won't hold it against you. But I hope you'll stay. For Bella's sake." Elena looked at the bed, the bathroom, the window. She thought about the alley, the sleeping bag, the dollar in her pocket that had almost bought crackers instead of saving a baby's life. "I'll stay," she said. "For the week we agreed on. Then we'll see." Dante nodded and left, closing the door softly behind him. Elena stood alone in the room for a long moment. Then she grabbed her backpack and headed for the bathroom. The shower had 6 different settings and water pressure that felt like heaven. Elena stood under the hot stream until the water ran cold, washing away 8 months of street grime. She used the expensive shampoo that smelled like lavender, the conditioner that made her short hair feel soft for the first time in forever. When she finally emerged, wrapped in a towel that probably cost more than her foster mother's car, she caught her reflection in the mirror. Without the dirt and exhaustion, she almost recognized herself, the girl she'd been before the foster homes and the running in the streets. There was a knock on the bedroom door. "Come in," Elena called, pulling on her clean set of clothes from her backpack. They were still worn, still cheap, but at least they didn't smell like Allie. Dante stood in the doorway holding a paper bag. "I thought you might need these tonight, until we get you proper clothes tomorrow." He held out the bag. Inside were sweatpants, a soft t-shirt, and a hoodie, all brand new, tags still attached. All in approximately her size. "How did you—" "I have people who can get things quickly." He paused. "The tags have the receipt. If they don't fit, we'll exchange them." Elena pulled out the sweatpants. They were the softest thing she'd touched in months. "They're perfect, thank you. Dinner will be here in 20 minutes. Meet me in the kitchen when you're ready." He left before she could respond. Elena changed into the new clothes. They fit perfectly. The hoodie was warm and comfortable, the kind of thing she could imagine wearing while taking care of Bella. Practical but clean. She found her way to the kitchen by following the smell of garlic and tomato sauce. The space was enormous. All stainless steel and marble countertops. Dante was setting out plates at a breakfast bar that overlooked the living room. "I ordered too much," he said, gesturing to the spread of containers. "I wasn't sure what you'd like." There was pasta in 4 different varieties: salad, bread, chicken, parmesan. Enough food to feed 10 people. Elena's stomach growled so loud it was audible. Dante smiled, a real smile this time, not the ghost of one. Sit, eat, don't be polite about it. Elena didn't need to be told twice. She piled her plate high and ate like someone who hadn't seen a real meal in 8 months. Because she hadn't. Dante ate too, but mostly he watched her. Not in a creepy way, more like he was trying to figure her out. How did you end up on the street? He asked finally. Elena swallowed her bite of pasta. Foster care. It didn't work out. Your foster parents kicked you out? I left. She reached for more bread. My foster father, She stopped. Some things didn't need to be said out loud. I couldn't stay there anymore. Dante's expression darkened. Did he hurt you? Not the way you're thinking. But he was going to. Elena met his eyes. So I ran. And I've been running ever since. How long ago? 8 months. I told you that. You were 16 when you left. Almost 17. My birthday was in September. You spent your 17th birthday on the street. It wasn't a question, but Elena answered anyway. Yeah, it's fine. I'm used to it. It's not fine. Dante's voice was hard. None of this is fine. You should have been in school. With friends. Planning for college. Not fighting for a spot behind a dumpster. Elena shrugged. Life doesn't care what should happen. It only cares what does. That's a very cynical philosophy for someone your age. I'm old for 17. She pushed her plate away, finally full. What about you? How did Bella's mother die? The question hung in the air like smoke. Dante was quiet for so long Elena thought he might not answer. Childbirth, he said finally. There were complications. The doctors tried everything. But his voice broke. She died 6 hours after Bella was born. Elena felt something crack in her chest. I'm sorry. Her name was Katerina. We weren't together anymore when she got pregnant. But when she told me, I promised I'd be there for the baby. I promised I'd make sure our daughter had everything she needed. Dante stared at his untouched food. I couldn't save Katerina. But I can save Bella. I will save Bella. From my life. From my world. From everything. That's why you want me, Elena realized. Because I'm not part of your world. Because I can give Bella something normal. Yes. Dante looked at her. My sister tries. But she's a Russo. She knows what we are, what we do. She can't teach Bella to be anything different. But you have nothing to do with any of this. You can show her there's another way to live. I'm homeless. I don't exactly have my life together. You survived 8 months on the street without losing your humanity. You gave your last dollar to help a stranger's baby. You could have walked away from me 100 times today. But you stayed because Bella needed you. Dante leaned forward. You have more together than most people I know. Elena didn't know what to say to that. So she stood and started clearing plates. You don't have to do that, Dante said. I don't mind. I like having something to do. They cleaned up together in comfortable silence. When they finished, Dante showed Elena how to use the baby monitor system connected to the nursery. If she cries, you'll hear it in your room. If you need me, I'm down that hall, last door on the left. He paused. Elena, I want you to understand something. You're safe here. Whatever happened in your foster home, whatever you've experienced on the street, it doesn't happen here. You have my word. Why should I believe you? Because I just told you I run an organized crime family, and you're still standing in my kitchen. Dante's expression was serious. I could have lied, could have pretended to be a normal businessman, but I didn't. I gave you the truth, because you deserve to know what you're walking into. And I'm giving you the truth now. You're safe here. Elena wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him so badly. Okay, she whispered. Get some sleep. Bella will probably wake up around midnight for a feeding. I'll handle it. We'll both handle it, Elena interrupted. You need to learn the routine. I won't always be here. Something flickered across Dante's face. Disappointment? But he nodded. Fair enough. Midnight feeding. We'll do it together. Elena went to her room and lay down on the softest bed she'd felt in years. Through the wall, she could hear Bella's gentle breathing through the monitor. Outside the window, the city glittered like a promise. She should be scared, should be planning her escape, should be questioning every decision that had led her to this moment. Instead, she felt something she hadn't experienced in 8 months. Safe. Midnight came quickly. Elena was already awake when she heard Bella's first cry through the monitor. She threw on the hoodie and padded across the hall to the nursery. Dante was already there, standing over the crib with an expression of mild panic. "I've got her," Elena said softly. "You get the bottle ready. Formula is in the kitchen. Follow the instructions on the container. 2 scoops per 4 ounces of water. Shake it well. Test it on your wrist." Dante hurried out. Elena lifted Bella, checking her diaper first. Wet. She changed it efficiently while Bella fussed, then settled into the rocking chair to wait for Dante. He returned 5 minutes later with a perfectly prepared bottle. "You want to feed her?" Elena asked. Dante hesitated, then nodded. Elena handed over Bella, watching to make sure he positioned her correctly. He did. Bella latched onto the bottle immediately. "She likes you," Elena observed. "She doesn't have much choice. Babies know. Even at this age, they can tell who's safe." Elena pulled her knees up to her chest in the other chair. "You're safe. I've killed people." The words came out flat, emotionless. "With these hands that are holding my daughter. How is that safe?" Elena was quiet for a moment. "My foster father never killed anyone. But he wasn't safe. Violence isn't always physical. Sometimes the people who hurt you most never leave a mark." She watched Bella drinking peacefully. "You'd die before you hurt her. That makes you safe." Dante's jaw tightened. "How can you know that?" "Because I've been around people who hurt kids. You're not one of them. I'd know." They sat in silence while Bella finished her bottle. Dante burped her carefully, following Elena's earlier instructions. The baby let out a satisfying burp and then settled against his shoulder, ready to sleep again. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For staying. For helping. For..." He stopped. "For seeing something in me I'm not sure exists." "It exists," Elena said with certainty. "You just have to decide which part of yourself to feed, the monster or the father." Dante laid Bella back in her crib with a gentleness that seemed impossible for someone his size. When he turned back to Elena, his expression was unreadable. "You should get some sleep," he said. "So should you. I don't sleep much." "Occupational hazard?" "Something like that." He moved toward the door. "Elena, if you need anything at all, don't hesitate." "I won't." He left, and Elena returned to her room. But sleep didn't come easily. She lay in the expensive bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the impossible situation she'd walked into. A Mafia boss and his motherless baby. A homeless girl with nothing to lose. A week-long trial that felt like it might change everything. Elena reached for the locket around her neck. Her mother's locket, the only thing she had left of the life before. Inside was a tiny photograph. Elena at age 5, smiling with missing front teeth. Her mother beside her, laughing at something outside the frame. "I don't know what I'm doing, Mama," Elena whispered to the picture, "but I think maybe I'm supposed to be here. I think maybe this little girl needs me as much as I need to be needed." The locket gave no answer, but Elena felt a warmth in her chest that might have been approval or might have been hope. Either way, she held onto it as she finally drifted off to sleep, the baby monitor crackling softly with the sound of Bella's peaceful breathing. The next 3 days fell into a rhythm. Bella would wake every 3 to 4 hours. Elena and Dante would handle the feedings together, him learning and her teaching. During the day, while Dante disappeared to handle whatever business he ran, Elena cared for Bella alone. A woman named Rosa came by on the second day with bags full of clothes for Elena. Professional but comfortable things, jeans that actually fit, sweaters, practical shoes, even pajamas that didn't have holes. "Mr. Russo said to get whatever you might need," Rosa explained in accented English. She was older, maybe 50, with kind eyes and the no-nonsense demeanor of someone who'd raised children. "If something doesn't fit, you tell me. I bring different size." "This is too much," Elena protested, looking at the pile of clothes on her bed. "Mr. Russo said you'd say that." Rosa smiled. "He also said to tell you that people who work for him represent the family. You need to look the part." Elena tried on everything after Rosa left. It all fit perfectly. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the girl staring back. Clean clothes, clean hair, a hint of color returning to her cheeks from regular meals. She looked almost normal, almost like she belonged in this world. The thought scared her more than she wanted to admit. On the 4th day, a security specialist named Marco came by to explain the protocols. He was younger than Dante, maybe late 20s, with the watchful eyes of someone trained to spot trouble. "You'll have a panic button," he explained, handing Elena what looked like a small keychain. "Press this, and security responds immediately. Keep it on you always. Is that really necessary? Mr. Russo thinks so. That makes it necessary. Marco's tone was respectful but firm. You also need to understand some basic security protocols. Don't open the door without checking the camera first. Don't get in an elevator with strangers. If you leave the building, Victor goes with you. Victor? Your security detail. You'll meet him tomorrow. Elena wanted to argue, wanted to insist this was all ridiculous. But she'd seen the way Dante looked at Bella, the fierce protectiveness, the determination to keep her safe at any cost. If Elena was caring for Bella, then she became part of that protective circle by default. Okay, she said. I understand. Marco looked surprised. Most people argue more. I'm not most people. That evening, Dante came home early. Elena was in the nursery, reading to Bella from a picture book about animals. The baby couldn't understand the words yet, but she seemed to like the sound of Elena's voice. You're good at that, Dante said from the doorway. Elena looked up. She likes stories. I think she gets it from you. What makes you say that? The way she settles when someone talks to her. Some babies prefer singing. Some prefer quiet. Bella likes voices, conversation, stories. Elena closed the book. Your sister said you used to read to Katerina during the pregnancy. That's probably why. Dante's expression softened. Isabella did say that. That Bella could hear me even before she was born. She was right. Elena stood, laying Bella in her crib for a nap. Babies remember more than people think. They moved to the kitchen, where Dante pulled out takeout containers from a bag Elena hadn't noticed him carrying. Chinese okay? He asked. You don't have to keep feeding me fancy food. This is hardly fancy. It's from Ming's 3 blocks over. He paused. And yes, I do have to feed you. You work for me. That includes meals. They ate together at the breakfast bar, the city sprawling below them in the gathering darkness. My sister called today, Dante said. She's doing better. Might come home in a few days. Elena's stomach tightened. That's good. It is. Dante set down his chopsticks. But I want you to stay. After the week is up, if you're willing. Why? Because in 4 days, you've taught me more about my daughter than I learned in 3 months. Because Bella responds to you. Because... He stopped. Because I trust you. That's rare for me. Elena pushed rice around her plate. I don't know anything about your world, the business, the danger. I wouldn't know what to do if something happened. That's what security is for. Your job is Bella. Taking care of her. Teaching her. Showing her there's more to life than what I can give her. Dante leaned forward. I'll pay you well. More than fair. You'll have your room, your security, everything you need. I need more than money. What do you need? Elena met his eyes. I need to finish school. I dropped out when I ran. I need my GED at least. Maybe community college eventually. Done. I'll hire tutors. Whatever you need. I need to know I'm not a prisoner. That I can leave if I want to. You can leave any time. Dante's voice was serious. But I hope you won't. Not without giving me a chance to fix whatever's wrong. Elena was quiet for a long moment. She thought about the alley, the sleeping bag, the constant fear and hunger and cold. Then she thought about Bella's smile this morning when Elena had picked her up. The way the baby grabbed her finger and held on like Elena was the most important person in the world. Okay, Elena said. I'll stay. But we do this right. Contract, pay scale, clear expectations. I'm not doing this on a handshake. Dante smiled. I'll have my lawyer draw something up. Standard employee contract, everything legal and proper. For a mafia boss, you're very concerned with legality. The legitimate businesses are completely legal. The other things, he shrugged. Those are kept separate. You won't be involved in any of it. Good. Elena stood, clearing plates. Because I'm willing to look the other way on a lot of things. But I won't help you hurt people. I would never ask you to. They cleaned up together, the routine becoming familiar, natural. When they finished, Bella started crying through the monitor. I'll get her, Elena said. We'll both get her, Dante corrected. They went to the nursery together. Bella needed changing and feeding. Dante handled the diaper while Elena prepared the bottle. They worked smoothly now, a team that had learned each other's rhythms in just a few days. As Dante fed Bella in the rocking chair, Elena sat in the window seat, watching the city lights. Can I ask you something? Dante said quietly. Sure. Why did you give me that $1? In the beginning. You said you gave Bella your last $1, but you actually gave it to me for the formula. Why? Elena thought about it. Because she needed it more than I did. And because, she paused. Because, when you're at your lowest, when you have nothing, the only thing that keeps you human is helping someone else, even in small ways, especially in small ways. Dante was quiet, absorbing this. You're wise for 17. I'm old for 17, Elena corrected. There's a difference. Yes. He looked down at Bella, who was falling asleep in his arms. There is. Elena stood to leave, to give him privacy with his daughter. But Dante's voice stopped her. Elena, thank you. For everything. But especially for reminding me what it means to be human. She turned back, saw the vulnerability in his expression. The gratitude. The fear that this fragile thing they were building might shatter. You're welcome, she said softly. Now put your daughter to bed. She's asleep. Elena left them there, father and daughter in the rocking chair, the city lights painting shadows across their faces. She went to her room and lay down on the bed that no longer felt foreign. 1 week had turned into something more. Something permanent. Elena pulled out her mother's locket and opened it, studying the picture in the dim light. I think I'm home, Mama, she whispered. I think maybe I finally found somewhere I belong. The locket gave no answer. But outside her window, the city sparkled like a promise, and across the hall, Bella slept peacefully under her father's watchful protection. For the first time in 8 months, Elena Cross allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, the worst was finally behind her. She had no idea how wrong she was. 2 weeks into her new life, Elena started noticing the shadows. They were always there, lurking at the edges of her awareness. Men in dark suits who appeared too frequently in the building lobby. Cars that seemed to follow when Victor drove her to the tutoring center Dante had arranged. Phone calls that made Dante's expression harden before he disappeared into his office for hours. Something was wrong. Elena could feel it the way she'd learned to feel danger on the streets, a prickling at the base of her skull, an instinct that screamed warning. She was changing Bella one morning when Dante appeared in the nursery doorway. His face was drawn, exhausted. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. We need to talk, he said. Elena's stomach dropped. Okay. Not here. My office. When Bella goes down for her nap. An hour later, Elena sat across from Dante's massive desk, her hands folded in her lap to keep them from shaking. The office was all dark wood and leather, the kind of room where important decisions were made and people's fates were decided. There's a problem, Dante said without preamble. With one of my business associates, a man named Salvatore Marchetti. Elena waited. She'd learned that Dante chose his words carefully, especially when talking about his other life. Marchetti runs operations in the South End. We've had an arrangement for years. But recently, Dante paused. He's been making moves, expanding into territory that isn't his, challenging agreements that have kept the peace for a decade. What does this have to do with me? He knows about you. About Bella. Dante's jaw tightened. He's made threats. Subtle ones. The kind that can't be proven but carry weight anyway. Fear spiked through Elena's chest. What kind of threats? The kind that suggest my daughter might be vulnerable. That the girl caring for her might be an easy target. Dante leaned forward. Elena, I need you to understand something. In my world, family is sacred. But it's also a weakness. The people I love can be used against me. So what are you saying? That I need to leave? No. The word was immediate, forceful. I'm saying you need to be more careful. Victor stays with you always when you leave the building. No exceptions. You don't answer the door. You don't talk to anyone I haven't vetted personally. Dante, I can't live like a prisoner. I'm not asking you to live like a prisoner. I'm asking you to live like someone who matters to me. His eyes met hers. Because you do. You and Bella. You're the only good things in my life right now. The admission hung in the air between them. Elena felt something shift in her chest, something warm and terrifying and completely inappropriate given their situation. I'll be careful, she said quietly. Thank you. Dante stood. There's something else. My sister Isabella is coming home tomorrow. She'll want to meet you properly. Thank you for taking care of Bella. Elena nodded, trying to ignore the knot of anxiety forming in her stomach. What if Isabella didn't like her? What if she thought Elena was unsuitable for caring for her niece? The next afternoon, Isabella Russo arrived like a force of nature. She was tall, elegant, with her brother's dark eyes and a warmth that seemed to radiate from her core. Despite the surgery, she moved with grace, only a slight wince betraying her discomfort. You must be Elena, she said, pulling Elena into a hug before she could protest. Dante has told me so much about you. All good things, I hope, Elena managed. He said you saved Bella when he was drowning. That's good enough for me. Isabella released her and immediately went to the nursery, where Bella was playing on her activity mat. Oh, my precious girl. Did you miss your auntie? Elena watched as Isabella scooped up Bella with practiced ease. The baby gurgled happily, clearly recognizing her aunt. She looks wonderful, Isabella said, studying Bella carefully. Healthy. Happy. You've been taking excellent care of her. I do my best. Isabella turned to Elena, and something in her expression grew serious. Can we talk? Just us. They settled in the living room while Bella napped. Isabella made tea, real tea, in china cups that probably cost more than Elena's entire wardrobe. I need you to understand something about my brother, Isabella began. He's a good man in a terrible business. Our father raised us in this life, but Dante, he never wanted it. He wanted to be a teacher. Can you imagine? Elena couldn't, actually, but our father died, and Dante had to step up. Had to become something he wasn't. Had to make choices that haunt him. Isabella sipped her tea. Then Katerina died, and I thought he might break completely. The only thing that saved him was Bella. And now, you. I'm just the nanny. No, you're not. Isabella's eyes were knowing. You're the person who gave him your last dollar for a baby you didn't know. You're the person who sees him as a father, not a monster. That matters more than you realize. Elena felt heat creep up her neck. I don't know what you think is happening, but I think my brother is starting to care about someone for the first time since Katerina died. And I think that person is you. Isabella held up a hand. Don't panic. I'm not suggesting anything inappropriate. You're 17. He knows that. But Elena, you need to understand that in Dante's world, caring about someone makes them a target. He told me about Marchetti. Marchetti is just the beginning. There are others who would love to find a weakness in Dante Russo's armor. And you, Isabella's expression grew fierce. You're exactly the kind of weakness they'll exploit. So what should I do? Leave? Absolutely not. Bella needs you. Dante needs you. But you need to be smart. Isabella leaned forward. Learn to shoot. Take self-defense classes. Understand the security protocols. Don't ever underestimate the danger you're in just by being in this building. Elena absorbed this, her mind racing. You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to prepare you. There's a difference. Isabella set down her teacup. I like you, Elena. You're genuine, kind. Exactly what this family needs. But kindness won't protect you from the people who want to hurt my brother through the people he loves. Over the next 2 weeks, Elena's life transformed in ways she hadn't expected. Isabella arranged for firearms training at a private range owned by one of the family's associates. The instructor, a former military specialist named Sarah, was patient but demanding. Your size is an advantage, Sarah explained, watching Elena's stance. People underestimate small women. Use that. Get close. Make every shot count. Elena learned to strip and reassemble a Glock 19. Learned about sight alignment and trigger control. Learned that shooting at paper targets was very different from imagining a real threat coming toward someone she loved. Think about Bella, Sarah said one afternoon, when Elena's shots were going wide. Think about someone trying to hurt her. Now shoot. Elena's next 5 shots hit center mass. But the real education came from Marco, Dante's head of security. He taught her to read body language, to spot surveillance, to recognize when something was wrong before it became dangerous. Trust your instincts, he said during one of their sessions. You survived 8 months on the street. Those instincts kept you alive. Don't ignore them now just because you're living in a fancy building. Elena didn't tell Marco that her instincts were screaming louder every day, that the shadows seemed to be closing in, that she'd seen the same black sedan parked across from the building 3 days in a row. She told Dante instead. He listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with every word. When she finished, he made a phone call that lasted less than 30 seconds. Marco's running the plates, he said. If it's surveillance, we'll know by morning. But morning brought worse news than surveillance. Elena woke to raised voices in the hallway. She threw on her robe and opened her door to find Dante arguing with Marco in hushed, urgent tones. What happened? Elena demanded. Both men turned. Dante's face was a mask of controlled fury. Victor's in the hospital. Someone ran him off the road last night on his way home. Broke both legs and his collarbone. He'll live, but... Dante's jaw clenched. It was a message. From Marchetti. Elena's blood ran cold. What kind of message? The kind that says he can reach my people anytime he wants. That no one who works for me is safe. Dante moved toward her. Elena, I need you to pack a bag. You and Bella are leaving the city tonight. What? No, I'm not running. This isn't a discussion. Marchetti is escalating. First threats, now actual violence. I won't risk you or my daughter. And what about you? Elena stepped closer. You think he'll just let you go? That if we leave, you'll be safe? I can handle Marchetti. By doing what? Starting a war? Elena's voice rose. How many people die in that war, Dante? How many of your people end up like Victor? That's my problem to solve. No, it's our problem. We're a family. You don't get to make these decisions alone anymore. Dante stared at her, something flickering in his eyes. Fear, pride, maybe even love. Elena, he started. That's when the lights went out. The entire building plunged into darkness. Emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in eerie red. Backup generator should have kicked in immediately, Marco said, already moving toward the security panel. This is wrong. The explosion shook the entire 42nd floor. Glass shattered. Alarms screamed. Elena was thrown backward into her room, hitting the floor hard enough to drive the air from her lungs. Through the ringing in her ears, she heard Bella screaming. Elena scrambled to her feet, ignoring the pain shooting through her shoulder. The hallway was filled with smoke and dust. She couldn't see Dante or Marco. Couldn't see anything except the faint red emergency lights and the doorway to the nursery. She ran. Bella was in her crib, screaming in terror but unharmed. The explosion had been in the living room, far enough away that the nursery had been spared the worst of it. Elena scooped up the baby, wrapping her in a blanket, pressing her close. Shh, sweet girl. I've got you. I've got you. Elena! Dante's voice cut through the chaos. He appeared in the doorway, covered in dust, bleeding from a cut above his eye. Are you hurt? I'm fine. Bella's fine. What happened? Breach. Marchetti's men came through the service elevator. Marco's team is engaging them now, but... He stopped. We need to move. Now. He led them down a hallway Elena had never noticed before. Through a door hidden behind a bookshelf. A private stairwell. Emergency escape route. Where does this go? Elena asked, following him down. Bella clutched tight against her chest. Underground parking. There's a car waiting. But Elena... Dante stopped on the landing, turning to face her. I need you to listen very carefully. Take Bella and get in that car. The driver knows where to go. Safe house upstate. You'll be protected. What about you? I'm ending this. Tonight. Marchetti crossed a line. He came into my home. Threatened my daughter. There's only one way this ends now. Elena saw the truth in his eyes. This wasn't about business anymore. This was about war. And Dante was planning to make sure he was the only one who walked away from it. I'm not leaving you, Elena said. You have to. For Bella. Bella needs her father. Not another person who abandons her because things got dangerous. Elena shifted the baby to one arm, freeing her hand to grip Dante's. We're in this together. You said we're a family. Families don't run. Before Dante could argue, gunfire erupted above them. Close. Too close. They're in the stairwell, Dante said, pulling his own weapon. Move. Fast. They ran down the remaining flights, Bella miraculously quiet against Elena's shoulder, as if the baby understood they needed silence. They burst through the door into the parking garage and found themselves surrounded by 5 armed men. Salvatore Marchetti stood in the center, older than Elena expected, maybe 60, with silver hair and cold eyes that looked at Bella like she was a business transaction. Dante Russo, Marchetti said, his voice carrying a thick Italian accent. You've made this so much harder than it needed to be. Dante stepped in front of Elena and Bella, his gun steady. You came into my home. You threatened my daughter. There's no walking back from that, Salvatore. Your daughter? Marchetti laughed. The bastard child of a dead whore? You threw away everything our family's built for decades over sentiment. Over weakness. He gestured to his men. Your empire is crumbling, Dante. Your people are abandoning you. All because you decided to play house with a homeless girl and a baby. Elena felt rage burn through her fear. She'd heard these words before, in different forms. Worthless. Trash. Nothing. Every foster parent who'd looked at her like she was disposable. Every person who'd walked past her on the street like she didn't exist. But she wasn't that girl anymore. You made a mistake. Elena said, her voice steady despite her hammering heart. You think I'm weak because I was homeless. You think Dante is weak because he cares about his daughter. You're wrong about both of us. Marchetti's eyes narrowed. The girl has a mouth. How charming. He nodded to one of his men. Take the baby. Kill them both. Everything happened at once. Dante fired, dropping one of Marchetti's men instantly. Elena spun, shielding Bella with her body as she ran for the cover of a concrete pillar. Gunfire exploded through the garage, bullets sparking off metal and concrete. Elena's training kicked in. She laid Bella down behind the pillar, the baby crying now but protected. Then she pulled the Glock from the ankle holster she'd started wearing 2 days ago, the one she'd thought was paranoid but Marco had insisted on. Sarah's voice echoed in her head. Make every shot count. Elena leaned around the pillar and fired twice. The first shot went wide. The second hit one of Marchetti's men in the shoulder, spinning him around. Not a kill shot, but enough to take him out of the fight. Dante had taken cover behind a car, trading fire with 3 men. The odds were terrible. Even if they survived this, more would come. This wouldn't end here. Unless Elena ended it differently. She looked at Bella, crying behind the pillar. Looked at Dante, bleeding and fighting. Looked at Marchetti, directing his men with cold precision. Elena made a choice. She stepped out from behind the pillar, holding her gun at her side, hands visible. Stop. Stop shooting. Elena, get back, Dante screamed, but Elena ignored him. She walked toward Marchetti, hands up, gun dangling from one finger. You want leverage? She called out. You want something Dante cares about? Here I am. Let him and Bella go. Take me instead. No! Dante's voice was raw. Elena, don't. Marchetti held up a hand. His men stopped firing. Interesting, the old man said, studying Elena like she was a puzzle. You would trade yourself for them? Yes, but I have conditions. Marchetti laughed. You're not in a position to make demands, girl. Actually, I am. Because if you kill me right now, Dante goes to war. And yeah, you might win that war, but it'll cost you everything. Half your men, your territory, your relationships with the other families who are watching to see how you handle this. Elena took another step forward. But if you let Dante and Bella go, if you take me alive, you get what you really want. You get to prove that Dante Russo is weak, that he abandoned someone under his protection to save himself. You destroy his reputation without firing another shot. She saw Dante's face go white, saw him understanding what she was doing, the impossible choice she was forcing on him. Save his daughter and let Elena sacrifice herself, or risk Bella's life trying to save them both. Elena, please, Dante whispered. Don't do this. She looked at him then, really looked at him. Saw the man who'd trusted her with his daughter, who'd given her a home when she had nothing, who'd shown her that family was something you built, not something you were born into. You taught me about family, Elena said softly. You taught me that sometimes love means making the hard choice, the choice that costs you everything. She turned back to Marchetti. Do we have a deal? The old man studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled. It was a terrible smile, full of cruelty and triumph. We have a deal. Dante, take your bastard and go. The girl stays with me. No. Dante stepped out from behind the car, his gun pointed at Marchetti. You want me to choose between them? Fine. I choose both. You want a war? You've got one, but you're not taking her. Then you're all dead, Marchetti said calmly. Maybe, but I'm taking you with me. That gun pointed at your head? It's loaded with hollow points. Even if your men kill me, I'll still have time to pull this trigger. You want to bet your life that I won't. Dante's hand was rock steady. Or we can make a different deal. What deal? I give you what you really want. Complete control of the Eastern Territory, my shipping contracts, my political connections, everything. Dante's voice was hollow. In exchange, you let them go. Both of them. You never touch them again. They disappear, and you pretend they never existed. Elena's heart cracked. Dante, no. That's everything you've built. It's nothing compared to you. Dante didn't take his eyes off Marchetti. Everything I built was with blood and fear. But you and Bella, you're the only good things I've ever had. I'm not losing that. Not for territory. Not for power. Not for anything. Marchetti considered this. You'd give up your entire empire for a baby and a homeless girl? Without hesitation. The old man laughed. Then you're a bigger fool than I thought. Fine. I accept. Sign over the territories, the The contracts, everything. And they walk. Dante, don't, Elena begged. We'll find another way. There is no other way. This is the choice, Elena. My empire or my family. Dante finally looked at her, and his eyes were bright with unshed tears. I choose family. Every time. Always. Marco appeared at the top of the stairwell with reinforcements. Dante's men, armed and ready. The odds had shifted. They could fight, could try to shoot their way out, but Dante held up his hand, stopping them. Stand down, he ordered. We're making a deal. What followed was the longest hour of Elena's life. Lawyers were called. Documents were signed on the hood of a car in an underground parking garage. Dante Russo systematically dismantled everything his father and grandfather had built, handing it over to his enemy with steady hands and empty eyes. When it was done, Marchetti smiled that terrible smile again. Pleasure doing business with you, Dante. Or should I say former Dante Russo, since you're not much of a Russo anymore without your empire. He looked at Elena. Take care of him, girl. He gave up everything for you. Don't make him regret it. Marchetti and his men left. The garage fell silent except for Bella's soft crying from behind the pillar. Elena ran to the baby, scooping her up, checking her for injuries. Nothing, just scared and crying for comfort. Dante stood alone in the center of the garage, staring at nothing. Elena walked to him slowly, Bella in her arms. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have. You were willing to die for us. Dante's voice cracked. You gave me a way out. A way to save Bella without losing you too. Don't apologize for that. But everything you built was built on sand. Dante finally looked at her. You and Bella are real. Everything else was just a story I told myself about who I had to be. He reached out, touching Bella's soft hair. I don't know who I am without the empire, without the power. But I want to find out. With you, if you'll stay. Elena thought about the alley. The dollar. The crying baby on a street corner that had changed everything. I'll stay, she said. For as long as you'll have me. Dante pulled them both into his arms, and Elena felt him shake with the weight of what they'd survived, what they'd lost, what they'd chosen. We need to leave the city, Marco said quietly, approaching them. Tonight. Marchetti will honor the deal, but others might not. You need to disappear until things settle. Dante nodded. The safe house? Already arranged. New identities, clean records. You'll be ghosts. They left New York that night, in a convoy of SUVs, leaving behind the penthouse and the empire and the life that had nearly killed them all. Elena sat in the back seat, Bella asleep in her car seat, Dante's hand clasped in hers. Where are we going? She asked. Small town in Vermont, population 5,000. No one knows us there. No history, no expectations. Dante looked at her. Is that okay? You'll have to finish school remotely. College, too. It won't be glamorous. Elena thought about glamour, about penthouses and designer clothes and a life built on blood. Then she looked at Bella, peaceful and safe. At Dante, choosing family over everything. It's perfect, she said. 6 months later, Elena stood in the kitchen of their farmhouse, watching through the window as Dante pushed Bella on a swing set he'd built with his own hands. The baby was shrieking with delight, her laughter carrying across the yard. They'd become the Martins. Daniel and Elena Martin, and their daughter Isabella. Daniel worked construction. Elena was taking online classes to become a teacher. They went to the local diner on Sundays, knew their neighbors' names, had a garden that Elena was slowly learning to tend. It was the most normal life Elena had ever lived. Sometimes, late at night, she wondered about the empire Dante had given up, the power and money and fear, whether he regretted it. But then she'd see him with Bella, teaching her to walk, reading her stories, making her laugh with silly faces, and she knew. He'd made the right choice. They both had. Mama! Bella called out, her new favorite word. She'd started calling Elena that 2 months ago, and Elena's heart broke and healed every time she heard it. Elena stepped out onto the porch. Dante caught her eye, and something passed between them. Understanding, gratitude, maybe even love, though neither had said the words yet. Come push, Bella, Dante called. She wants to go higher. Elena walked across the grass, feeling the sun on her face, breathing air that smelled like pine trees instead of car exhaust. She took over, pushing duties while Dante went to start dinner. Higher, Bella demanded, her dark eyes sparkling. Higher it is, sweet girl. That night, after Bella was in bed, Elena and Dante sat on the porch watching the stars. Real stars, visible without the light pollution of the city. "Do you miss it?" Elena asked. "The life before?" Dante was quiet for a long moment. "Sometimes I miss the certainty. Knowing who I was, even if who I was wasn't good. But then I remember what I have now. Peace. A daughter who laughs instead of cries. You." He turned to her. "No, I don't miss it. Not enough to go back. What if they come for us, Marchetti or someone else? Then we run again. Or we fight. Or we do whatever we have to do to protect this." Dante gestured to the house, where Bella slept peacefully. "This is worth protecting." Elena leaned against his shoulder. "Yeah, it is." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars and listening to the crickets. Somewhere in the house, Bella stirred in her sleep, and Elena's instincts immediately sharpened, ready to respond. But the baby settled again. All was quiet. "Elena," Dante said softly, "thank you." "For what?" "For that day. On the street. For giving us your last dollar. For seeing something in me worth saving. For staying even when staying meant danger. For making an impossible choice in that garage. For," his voice broke, "for showing me what really matters." Elena took his hand. "We saved each other. You gave me a home when I had nothing. A family. A purpose. You showed me that I was worth more than the world said I was. You are. You're worth everything." They sat together under the stars, this makeshift family built from desperation and sacrifice and $1 given to a stranger's crying baby. Elena thought about the girl she'd been in that alley. Alone, hungry, counting her last dollar and trying to decide how to survive one more day. That girl would have never imagined this. A home in the country, a baby calling her mama, a man who'd given up an empire because she mattered more than power. But here she was, living proof that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could reshape entire lives. That family wasn't about blood or money or status. It was about who showed up when everything fell apart, who stayed when leaving was easier, who chose you, over and over, even when the cost was everything. "I love you," Elena whispered into the darkness. Dante's hand tightened on hers. "I love you too, both of you, more than I knew was possible." Inside, Bella slept peacefully, safe and loved, and completely unaware of the sacrifices that had been made to give her this quiet, normal life. Outside, her parents sat together under the stars, holding hands, and daring to believe that maybe, just maybe, they'd finally found where they belonged. And somewhere, in alleys and on street corners across the country, other people were making other choices, giving their last dollar, helping strangers, showing kindness when the world insisted on cruelty, building families, one small act at a time. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.